A few years ago, Oksana and I stood together, full of hope, as we said our vows and began our journey as husband and wife. I was proud to call her my partner, and together we built a life that seemed to have everything we could want. As an entrepreneur, I had worked tirelessly to make my business a success. When it finally began to thrive, I wanted to share that success with Oksana, giving her the opportunity to pursue her passion for fashion. Oksana had always loved creating unique garments, but she never had the time or resources to fully explore her talent. With my encouragement, she embraced her creativity, starting small by sewing for herself and gradually taking on projects for friends and acquaintances. I knew how much it meant to her, so I gifted her a sewing machine and transformed a room in our home into her dedicated workspace. It was a small gesture, but it brought her so much joy. As her confidence grew, I supported her every step of the way. I funded her trips to workshops and classes, happy to see her flourish. Oksana became more skilled with each project, and I admired her dedication. It was rewarding to see her bring her ideas to life, and it felt good to know I could help her do that. Meanwhile, my own career was taking off. In the early days of my business, progress had been slow, and there were moments when success felt like an impossible goal. But everything changed when Vladimir, an old college friend, came into the picture. Vladimir shared my vision and soon became my business partner. His experience and insight brought stability to the company, and together we made decisions that propelled us forward. Over time, I came to trust him completely. Our life together felt stable and fulfilling. I had a thriving business, a wife I adored, and a cozy home we had built together. I wanted to show Oksana how much I appreciated her, so I decided to surprise her with a meaningful gift. Knowing her love for individuality, I thought of creating something unique, just like her. I remembered a small jewelry shop I had passed by and decided to visit after work. The craftsman there specialized in custom pieces, and together, we designed a ring that I knew Oksana would love. Made of white gold with gemstones arranged in the shape of ocean waves, the ring symbolized our meeting by the sea. When the ring was ready, I gave it to Oksana. Her delight was unmistakable. She wore it proudly with her wedding band, admiring how the two pieces complemented each other. Seeing her so happy made all the effort worth it. At that moment, I felt like I had everything I could ever want: a strong marriage, a successful career, and a shared future full of promise. Life continued smoothly after I gave Oksana the ring. She wore it often, a small but meaningful reminder of our bond. Between her growing passion for fashion and my business's ongoing success, we were both busy but content. Every evening, we would come together, sharing the details of our day over a quiet dinner. I felt lucky to have a partner who supported me as much as I supported her. My trust in Vladimir also deepened during this time. He had become a fixture in the company, someone who handled operations with precision and care. As a business partner, he often took on responsibilities that lightened my load. This trust gave me the freedom to focus on expansion, and together, we explored opportunities that brought us closer to our shared goals. But as time passed, small details began to gnaw at me, subtle shifts in Oksana's behavior that I couldn't quite put my finger on. She seemed more guarded about certain things, brushing off questions with laughter or vague answers. I chalked it up to her busy schedule. After all, her sewing projects were picking up, and she spent long hours in her workspace, dedicated to her craft. Then came the day I noticed something odd. After an exhausting day at work, I was looking forward to unwinding at home. As we sat down to dinner, I couldn't help but notice the ring was missing from Oksana's finger. "Oksana, where's the ring?" I asked, puzzled by its absence. She seemed unbothered, replying, "Oh, I scratched it while sewing. I took it to a workshop to get it fixed." I frowned. If you had told me, I could have taken it to the jeweler who made it for us. They know the piece well. "Don't worry about it," she said with a dismissive laugh. "It's just a minor thing. I'll handle it." Her response unsettled me, though I didn't say more. As I left the house the next morning to catch public transportation, our car was being repaired. I mulled over her words. How had she scratched the ring while sewing? It didn't seem likely, but I pushed the thought aside, convincing myself it wasn't important. The next day brought an entirely different kind of surprise. Running late for a meeting with contractors, I struggled to find a cab or rental car nearby. Just when I thought I'd be hopelessly delayed, I noticed Vladimir's car parked on the street. It was strange since he had called in sick that morning. Curious, I approached and saw Vladimir stepping out of a nearby store, holding a small bag. His appearance didn't match someone who was bedridden. He looked perfectly fine. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice sharp with suspicion. Vladimir seemed momentarily startled but quickly smiled. "Feeling better. Just picking up a few things." Something about his tone and demeanor struck me as off. He had lied about being sick, and now he was conveniently in the area. Before I could think too much about it, I asked for a favor. "Since you're here, can you give me a ride to the business center? I'm late." He agreed, and as we drove, he began talking about a familiar topic, formalizing our partnership. He had brought this up before, wanting to establish equal stakes in the company. It wasn't a priority for me yet, as I was still navigating the legalities involved. As he spoke, my attention wandered. I reached for a water bottle in the back seat, and that's when I saw it, a shiny object lying on the mat. Picking it up, I immediately recognized it. Oksana's custom ring, the one I had designed and gifted her. A cold wave of suspicion washed over me. My thoughts raced as I pieced together what I was seeing. The ring wasn't at a workshop, it was in Vladimir's car. What had Oksana been doing with Vladimir? And why was the ring here? I didn't say a word as Vladimir continued talking, oblivious to the storm brewing in my mind. Everything suddenly felt connected. His sudden absences from work, Oksana's unusual behavior, the lies about the ring. It all pointed to one undeniable conclusion. There was something going on between them. That realization hit me harder than I could have imagined. Vladimir wasn't just angling for a bigger role in my business. He was betraying me on the most personal level. And Oksana, her complicity felt like a knife to the chest. The discovery of Oksana's ring in Vladimir's car felt like the ground beneath me had crumbled. I couldn't unsee the evidence, nor could I ignore the implications. For the rest of the ride, I sat in silence, barely registering Vladimir's chatter about partnerships and expansion plans. My mind raced through the possibilities, each thought more painful than the last. As soon as the car stopped at our destination, I made my excuses and got out, barely acknowledging Vladimir's goodbye. My focus was now singular. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. Returning to the office, I began cutting off Vladimir's access to the business. The company was registered solely in my name, which gave me complete authority. I revoked his permissions to our shared documents, restricted his access to company accounts, and alerted my legal team to prepare for his potential removal. Later that evening, I went home, the ring clutched in my hand like a symbol of betrayal. Oksana was sitting in the living room when I arrived. The sight of her, calm, unsuspecting, ignited a mix of anger and grief inside me. I dropped the ring onto the table in front of her. "Care to explain how this ended up in Vladimir's car?" I asked. My voice was cold, my gaze unyielding. Her face turned pale as the weight of her lies caught up with her. She stammered, trying to find the words, but the truth was already clear. She and Vladimir had crossed a line, one that could never be repaired. There was no argument, no excuses she could give that would make a difference. I told her to pack her things and leave immediately. The betrayal was too deep, too personal. She hesitated, pleading with me to listen, to understand, but I was done. Oksana gathered her belongings, tears streaming down her face as she realized the finality of her actions. I watched as she left, shutting the door behind her without another word. The home we had built together felt emptier, but I knew I couldn't live under the same roof as someone who had so blatantly betrayed my trust. The next day, I informed Vladimir that he was no longer welcome in the business. When he tried to defend himself, I laid everything out: his lies, his betrayal, and his reckless gamble to ruin both my marriage and our professional relationship. There was nothing he could say to reverse the damage he had done. Oksana and Vladimir's relationship didn't last long. With no steady income and mounting debts, their partnership crumbled under the weight of their poor decisions. Oksana eventually left him, seeking refuge elsewhere. She even tried reaching out to me, apologizing and asking for forgiveness. But there was no going back. I had no interest in revisiting the past, not with her and certainly not with Vladimir. My energy was focused on my business, my future, and rebuilding the life I deserved. With Oksana and Vladimir gone, my life felt quieter, but it was a silence I welcomed. There was no longer the weight of suspicion or the burden of deceit hanging over me. My home, once filled with shared memories, became a space for rebuilding, a clean slate to start anew. I poured my energy into my business, focusing on the future. Without Vladimir, I found that I worked more efficiently, with no need to second-guess motives or navigate hidden agendas. My company grew stronger, a testament to the hard work and vision I had poured into it from the start. As for Oksana, I heard through mutual acquaintances that her life with Vladimir didn't last. Their relationship, built on betrayal and lies, crumbled under the weight of their choices. Oksana struggled to support herself as Vladimir sank into debt, and eventually they parted ways. She reached out to me once, seeking forgiveness and a second chance, but I refused to engage. Some bridges, once burned, cannot be rebuilt. Looking back, I realized their betrayal, though painful, was a blessing in disguise. It forced me to confront hard truths and shed relationships that no longer served me. Life moved forward, and so did I, channeling my efforts into things that mattered: my business, my health, and my peace of mind. Sometimes, loss clears the way for growth. Though the experience was bitter, it taught me to trust my instincts and value those who truly deserve my loyalty. With my focus on the road ahead, I found myself unburdened by the past, ready for whatever the future might bring. For more stories and insights, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let's learn and grow together. Your support means everything.